So the question to you guys is, how do you want to run this? Do you have any thoughts on how you want your world to be run? Like how many guests do you want? Do you have a screen you specifically want to share?
We need 2 guests, and we also have a short tutorial page. Maybe Kenny can show you, share the screen and show you briefly.
Yeah, we don't have it in game, so let me share real quick.
Go for it. All right, go ahead and share. You should have sharing permission.
Yeah. Oh, wait, can you guys say it? Can you guys say it?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Woo. All right.
Did you all get it? Yeah, okay.
Okay. All right. Sort of makes sense. Kind of got it. And wait, you said you only wanted 2 guests, or
2 guests? Yeah.
Okay. Is your world designed for just 2, or is it you aiming for more eventually?
Or just
eventually we'll have multiple teams. Each team will have 2 guests. So we'll have a lobby and many playrooms.
Okay.
That was the plan.
But right now, just 2 guests.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And PC, right? You're just a standard Unity PC build.
PC networking.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I'll take one of those roles. And I guess Steph, Karen, either one of you want to join me?
Do you want a naive one or one that already played last night?
Yeah.
Let's go naive.
Okay, then.
All right. And do you want, it doesn't matter who runs the world?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay. All right, let me get it up. I'll share my screen. This, share screen.
The name, if you want, in the left input field, you can enter your name.
Oh, gotcha. It's like that name looks confusing. So I'll log in. All right, now I'm ready. All right, and I'm guessing keyboard does that. Okay, 5. Nice. Nice. Wait. What? Is there a way?
Here, wait, get off the button for a second. I think you can come through.
Oh, gotcha. Nice. The door up here, so we need to like flip the switch. There we go. Alright, I'm pushing a button. I don't know exactly what that does. Leave that. Blocks that. Gotcha. You go up here. Okay. I think we need to have one person on the other side of this.
Okay.
And then the other person has to go up and flip that. Alright, you get the lever now? There we go. Alright, we got a star. Alright. Oh, there's a button up here. Can you go through that gate? Then around. Alright.
It's not the right button. Okay.
Hey, through. Alright, so we need to get E up there. And I'm guessing this switch down.
push the button.
They did that. They just sort of like going around. Get it through.
Alright.
And that was the lever up there. So this is the button down there. Got that. Got the stars. Got the flight. I think I got the button pushed. Oh wait, there's a whole area down here.
Oh.
Here we go. Fly through here. What's up down here?
Okay, I found a second key.
I'm gathering some stars down here. Down all the way here. Alright. Wait. Do we have all the keys now?
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like the dead end would go all the way back.
Alright.
Alright. Fly not through there. The button up there. Go through. I'm going to do the lever. You go to the left up there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Right up. And then there. That. Then there's one over here.
I think that's the wrong one.
Wrong one.
I think it's in the water.
Alright.
Yep. Alright.
We need that. Then. Wait, it's open. I guess we are.
I think we're.
Yeah, that's the end.
Okay.
We're free. We're flying. Nothing. Alright. Cool.
Win.
Win. So kind of a big change. Before it was a race. Now it's cooperative puzzle solving. And I mean, we puzzle solved. Like, I mean, there was definitely, having to talk and coordinate, and like you've got these like the changing the creatures, and it totally worked. I mean, I think the one thing that was a little frustrating was we got all the way to the end, and it was like, you need more keys, and it was unclear that that was going to happen, and we had to backtrack, and we missed this whole beginning. So your level design is a little weird. It's like at this weird decision point at the very beginning, which is two paths, and they're very separate paths. There's no connection. But just from an experience perspective, like it was interesting. Like it was the simple choices of like which creature am I at each given moment was interesting. Like flying versus being a dolphin versus the horse being human. Although is the human the only character that can pick up the keys? That's sort of the deal there.
Yeah.
So there's a little, like the horse and the human sort of felt like a little bit of overlap. But fundamentally it was interesting, and there was definitely like stuff to coordinate and talk about. And I like that. And you guys are thinking about making this multiple teams competing simultaneously?
Yes, can I share the screen and show you briefly what we want? Let me share my screen. Where is it? Share screen. You cannot find it? How can I share the screen? I don't see. Oh. New share. Okay, can you see my screen? No?
Yep.
So basically, this will be the final view of our game. So when you log in with your name, you see a panel like this, and you can join any empty room which can accommodate 2 players. Then you press join, then you can play with the other guy. After that, you'll see your score on this high scores board, and you'll see how good you are among previous teams.
Okay, so the score is basically the stars
Basically the
and
star.
the
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. So we'll put more into the game rather than the current we have, which is pretty short. And
Okay.
like some of them will be hidden in very deep place. Yeah.
So I guess one of the things that you're setting up a sort of a competition, like high score. Is time a component too, or is it just the stars? I'm trying to think about like what are the guests playing? Like how are they approaching this?
I think we may add time constraint. I think it's because otherwise they can just free explore and collect all the stars. And
Yeah. And then the spectators, is there like a match that you'll be like just highlighting, like this is the main match, something like that? So is there a one that the guests can specifically watch?
I guess probably we'll add another button in the third column that like a watch. If you want to watch as a spectator, you can choose to watch any room from the menu.
Okay. Well, and I mean, I think this is an interesting like decision point for your team, which is you've got a 2-player co-op, sort of like 2D, like platformer style experience. And the idea of changing between different animals is interesting, and we sort of use that to navigate, sort of like puzzle, collaborate to navigate the whole space. And then I think what I would ask is like, and then what? Like, is this like you have here aiming for high scores? So that like it's a way of like raising the stakes and saying, hey, you're gonna work together, and the best team is this team right now. Can you beat that score? So it's sort of like setting up that meta challenge of it's not just like explore the level and discover it. It's do better than what other teams have done. I think another question then is also like spectators. Is there a sense for the larger audience to know what's going on and to be invested in this? And I think that kind of gets to a core question, which is what does it mean to be good at this world? Having a high score kind of implies that there is a difference between the team at the bottom and the team at the top, and like what does it mean to move up? What does it mean to aspire to be a team that's doing really well? And I think that also plays into the idea of spectation, because you have a world which is a little bit about discovery and puzzle solving, and spectation might interfere with the ability to be good if it's entirely built around discovery and problem solving. And I think that's a thing to sort of navigate, is how do you want this to be expressed as an experience for a bigger audience? And like, for instance, just in this high score thing, a good way to get better is to play it again, right? Is to do it once and then do it again. And I think that's a good reality for getting better at things, but you potentially have a cap at what the high score could be. And so I would think about as a discussion point for your team is, what does being better at this mean? And almost like what is that progression possibly over like the whole festival, things like that. And I would push you a little bit on like, what does that mean for like the escalation of this, and how you're like encouraging the guests in certain ways, of like, like I said, is it speed? Is it execution? Is it like limitations in the number of transformations? Like, are there dimensions that you want to encourage guests sort of think about and focus on. But I think that's like the fact you have this like planned out is really nice, because it's sort of where you are. You have like a compelling 2-player co-op experience, and I think now the question is like transforming it into a festival experience is part of the next transformation. Mo, you were watching this? Thoughts?
Yeah, I have some thoughts. I think the prototype that you guys built proves a lot. Like, it's a really good accomplishment watching Dave played it with, who was it, Steph? I think, their communication was good. They kind of figured things out at a rate that I looked fun and not frustrating. So, like, the good news, it works really well. I think the idea has legs to go in a lot of different directions. I mean, one suggestion that I might have is, rather than all players having the same abilities, can you differentiate the abilities across the players? Can they customize? Okay, I'm gonna be bird here and dolphin. Can you take the 2 other animals, right? And maybe you have 10 different animals that you can all choose from. And there's a lot of different ways to solve puzzles, and maybe taking more of like a sandbox approach to how you would solve these puzzles and the mechanics and how they all fit together might be a really strong way to go. It does remind me a bit of Altered Beast. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but Altered Beast is like this old classic Sega arcade game. And what worked well about that game is the world that you're in is kind of frustrating to deal with until you power up, and then you can transform into an animal. It's a different approach, but that's like a really rewarding moment, is being able to control the transform into the animal. So maybe you have a mechanic that could work well for you guys there, that you can't always just transform into a bird. That consumes some sort of power from you, and you have to use budget wisely. But the idea has a really good start.
Yeah, and I think that just sort of like points to like these questions of, is being good at this world about budgeting your transformations, like, the fewest transformations? Is it about like separating roles, and it's about cooperation and coordination? But I think that's, like I said, that's sort of like the next decision point of this, because then you can use that to define, how do you refine this, right? Like, essential to a high score is, while I'm playing, I see the score. And even just getting a score into the game will like give me feedback on what should I be trying to do. Like, as Steph and I were playing, like, there's no timer. It was like, in some sense, our goal was explore. And I feel like when we got to the wall, it was like, find the keys. And so we sort of developed these progressive goals, and the level does a good job of like showing those little pieces, but it's very at our own pace. Like, we have unlimited transformations. There's a little bit of control, which is just finesse of like, getting into the water and things like that. But if there was a timer, and like there was a score that was driving our decisions, then I think we would have a different experience. And that's where like pulling in that idea of like, how do these coordinate come in. One other thing to think about is there a way to connect the experiences across guests? Is this something where I do it in isolation and I do it on my own time, and then the score just sort of like gets populated? Or is there like, you start all the rooms at the same time, and like there's an idea that there's like 6 teams going at once, and you can sort of see their scores across things or something. None of these are necessarily like better or worse, but I do think you guys need to, as a team, define, how do you want guests on a broader level to approach the world and understand stuff. Like, it could work very well as a sort of an asynchronous, 2 players coordinate to just play it, and like scores get populated, and you're just part of like a continuous, like, just trying to outdo each other. And then you just have casual conversations with people who played, like, yeah, I tried it, that was really cool. Like, did you do this? And I do that. Or it could be more of an event where it's like, okay, next match is happening in 2 minutes. Get ready, get your teams. We've got room for like 3 more. And so those little choices about the festival, I think, are going to help you decide how to iterate the actual experience itself. Cool. Christian, do you have any thoughts?
Just there's a lot of room to make the world sing, so to speak. With the whole, your big deal is with the buttons and the doors, and a lot of the times the button that you push doesn't necessarily affect something that you see on screen, and so unless the people are able to speak with each other, there is little to no feedback of you actually doing something that changed the world. So think about worst case scenario. You know, people who do not have access to speaking with each other should still have the same ability to understand that they've changed the world. So think about that as you create a much greater sense of feedback with action.
No, that's a really good point that we were taking something for granted here, which is we're connected over Zoom while we experience this. And I think that's an important decision for you guys to make as a team is, do you expect the two guests who are on a team to be connected over voice chat? And that is an assumption that you may not be able to make if you're doing this whole idea of separate rooms and things like that. As another note, the eagle scream, it caused me to like be hesitant to switch into being a bird by the end because it's kind of loud and I knew it was coming every time. So I think it's great. I think actually punctuating the transformation with a sound has helped me like understand and learn that. But I'd watch the repetition. Cool. All right. Well, great work. I'm excited to see what you iterate on. And so like just great foundation for interim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we are moving on to Team 44. So you guys will get your videos up. And my notes say you guys are Air Console. So how do you want to do this?
I will be hosting it.
Okay. That's
What are do I have step-by-step instructions somewhere?
Setting it up right now. All right. There's the code.
continue without Facebook. Catch code. 144. All right.
Connecting.
Name. No, don't do iTunes. All right, I'm in, waiting for siblings.
The basic controls are the same as last time, so yeah.
All right, I'm the hands, I believe. This is what, let's see. So I got 6 dots. Who's the feet?
I'm WASD.
All right, who's the head?
I have grab. I don't know if that means I'm hands.
So we have 2 new players, right? Okay, so the basic rules are the head can pick up that scroll that's on the screen right now, and that will teach you these spells. And the head will have to communicate to the hands what the spell symbol looks like so they can cast a spell. And the feet can move around.
Do I need to go to the front of the desk? Let's go this way, just to be sure. Oops.
Ooh. I can illuminate surroundings by creating a source of light.
All right. I think what's the pattern that I need to draw for that?
To illuminate, it's a square along the edges. So each one going to create a full square. And then there's also an open sesame to open a door, which is a diamond using only the middles of the edges.
Here we go. I think
Yay.
that will illuminate
There's a little magic thing there. Can we pick that up?
the little sword, or wait, behind the that. I don't know.
The glowing
That's
thing is a bug.
That's a bug. Yeah, sorry about that.
Is it a glowing bug?
Yes, literally.
All right, so we need to open a door then. Oh, is that a sign?
Maybe we should read that. It's got the eye icon.
Right, I'm gonna turn the lights on again.
The sign says the correct answer is not always the right one, but be oh, I lost it.
Sorry.
Come on, Pete.
The correct answer is not always the right one, but be indecisive and you may be caught in the middle. That leaves just a single choice, but which one is left? Ugh.
Left. Right? We want this one.
And then I guess to open sesame is a diamond using only the centers of each edge.
Got it. Let's go into the mysterious portal. Can we go in there?
I didn't do that. I've lost control. Okay, I got control back. It was walking on its own. I apologize. Okay, let's go get the scroll. It's hard to tell where it is in space. It's just floating.
Oop, we got fire and fly. Fire will burn everything. Be careful. And then fly. Watch out if you have some burden, you cannot fly a long distance. I'm assuming we need to fly to cross the river.
I believe so.
Do it. What's
That
the?
is an infinity looking thing. So you got all of the edges on the left, all of the edges on the right, and they cross in the middle.
Sideways hourglass.
That one as well.
Whoa. Ooh.
Got
All right, let's read this.
Caution, watch your step ahead. Weight capacity per unit is 2/3 of a human, and then the wood is also very flammable.
So we got a, what was it, a weight capacity and the don't set it on fire?
Probably.
Well,
Oh, okay, maybe we want to reveal the path underneath by setting
let's burn
it.
it. Let's burn all the wood. All right, what's the fire spell look like?
So the fire spell, it is like a square, except instead of using the top edge, you go down into the middle, so it dips to be like, kind of like a crown.
Gotcha.
All right, let's fly over to this block here.
Here we go. Why? We're going.
You know, up, down, left, right is not quite. All right, let's try it again.
You ready? Excellent.
And again. So
Not that way, not that way.
yeah, there's a little bit of a, I don't know if it's by design. Oops. It's I promise this is not
Yeah,
the player.
it's helpful to like just tap the direction you want to go one more time. 'cause,
before
the
you.
animation doesn't update.
Oh wait, Dave, no, you and I have to coordinate.
All right.
That's the problem. So let me give you a go ahead. I think the last thing I can do is the direction we want to go. So okay, now you should be good. Wait. Okay, try it now.
Get it?
All right, do you guys want to go down or up?
Let's go up. There's something. There seems to be something up there.
All right, you should be good.
All right.
Should we open this?
Should we burn that?
You see there, open sesame or burn.
Cast burn. Nope. We open sesame.
Maybe a bit closer. Yeah, to the door.
All right. Do burn again. There we go.
Now we'll never know what's down though.
Oop.
Oh, yep. No, it's out of control again. Sorry.
Yeah, a little bit closer. There we go. Help out the sprout, and the sprout might help you. Note, when you have choices, use the right one. I bet you this next spell is a water spell.
What?
A mash and grab. Get lower.
The controls need a little bit of work here. I think I'm stuck for some reason. Yeah, here. I was stuck.
Yeah, we got it. We got 2 new spells. It's water. Do you need water? Cast the spell. Magic is going to deal with the logic. This water contains plenteous minerals, including calcium, magnesium, and gold. And then we also discovered wind. You can make wind without becoming a fan. Magicians. What else? So water is a house.
House. All right.
Without using the upper left and upper right.
Got it.
Wow.
There we go. Look.
Should we jump on that?
Let's do it. Can you walk on it or do you need to fly to it?
Oh, I was thinking fly.
And maybe we need wind now?
Wind is an upwards arrow that does not use the upper left, the upper right, or the bottom center. With the 2 left, the 2 bottom left on the left side, the upper middle, and then the 2 bottom right ones. So it's kind of like a 3D block of an arrow going from lower left, lower mid, or sorry, left low, left mid, high mid, and then oh gosh, right mid, right low, and then center.
Is the design that you can't hold up your phone to the screen? We don't want to do that. Is that cheating?
Okay, I got it.
That was it.
That would be cheating, yes.
Gotcha.
All right.
All right, let's try it again. I'm pointing the right way, I think. Yay. I'm worried I'm gonna fall off. I should. All right, try again.
Does it seem like we can go? It doesn't seem like we sort of like hit a wall. Can we go out into the?
Let me tap down again. Try again now.
Ready?
Yeah.
There we go.
I have to proc it the way it's implemented. You guys want to go right or left? Don't go.
Just that's when we're facing.
No.
Oh.
You got to tell me which way you want to go first. All right, we're good.
Ready?
All right, sorry, right or left?
Let's go to the right.
This way then. All right, you're good again. All right, let me. I think we have to fly.
Yeah, we didn't expect it someone is going to use blank spare on the boat.
Did we get somewhere we shouldn't be?
What spell did we use? that you
Yeah,
didn't expect?
Perhaps, yes.
You were supposed to finish the rest of the level on the boat. Like we didn't expect.
People to fly off.
Yeah.
Can you get back on the boat?
Just get a boat.
I don't.
I
I
think you
forget
can.
where the boat is.
It's down right.
I was like, oh, this is an interesting design choice. Just do a little bit of walking.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, I'll try to get back on. So I think we went the wrong way. Oh, ooh, that was dicey.
All right, you ready?
No, let me get off this boat better. Okay, try it now.
Do it. All right, just keep them coming.
You're good.
You're in the right way. This is the wrong way. So you need to go to the right and downside.
I thought that's where we came from. Okay.
All right.
All right, we're good again. I feel like I'm gonna fall off on a second.
Is this where we started?
That's what I thought. Yeah,
I
this is
think
where we
just
started.
meant you turn right here and you like keep going.
Okay,
Ready?
good,
All right,
good.
let's do it. Nope.
We're stuck again. Okay, well, 1 second. Let me try that. We're stuck. All right, let's try this now.
Come on. All right, now we need to go down to the right.
We're stuck again.
That. Ready?
Yep. Wait.
Ready?
Yep. And ready? Oh, this is where we jumped off before, maybe.
Gotcha. Ready?
Yep. So I know we kind of messed this up, but ready? Just a little bit of feedback. Christian has kind of been idle for a while. All right, ready?
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 Again.
Ready?
Oops.
Whoa.
I guess we go up to the left. Yeah.
Ready?
How big is this level?
You're almost there.
Ready? Ready? That was the wrong choice. Sorry. Ready? Ready?
All right.
We're almost there. Ready?
That's close.
That's all we have for intro.
All right.
Very nice.
All right. So, man, there's that was a long play session. I think one of the most notable things is how long it took, and I think especially at the end there, like that navigation was going on for way too long. But rewinding all the way back to the beginning, like starting, we are, in that space. We're in that sort of like that room with the desks and the scrolls, and we're sort of like working together to cast these spells. I mean, there's definitely those early moments I think were especially good for coordination and for like us working together. I think that's where this world is working well. I definitely lost, for me, like it approached the fantasy of being like three little characters stacked on top of each other, but it never really clicked. So that fantasy never really sort of came true for me. I think it mainly felt like we had three different parts to play to solve these things, and it was about like just communicating and like talking through it. And we had like the task was divided up, and then it was just executing through that. And I think on a beginning level that felt interesting, like getting to know that. But man, like when it became very repetitive, and it was mostly we were fighting, I think, the controls and sort of like the level design, as opposed to sort of like living out that fantasy. I think that was like one of my main reactions is like it's approaching that, but it doesn't. There's nothing that really like we get to is like, oh yeah, like that's why this is exciting or different in terms of like that fantasy of being these three characters. And I think some of it is like the world doesn't really reinforce it all that well. Like we have like the world feels like an isometric level that we can go through and do these things. But if I had to tell you the story of what we did, I don't think I would describe it in the terms that are what you guys are sort of like proposing and building. It felt like we were, just walking through a space, casting spells to like move around. I think that would be one thing I would really like push on is like how do you bring the sort of like the fantasy more to life in this. And I guess Mo and Christian, like in terms of like your roles, I know Mo, you were most active in terms of movement. It seemed like at times you're definitely fighting the controls, and then Christian, your job was like to read the signs and then watch while we tried to, sail around on a leaf. So I guess from your perspective, like what were your reactions?
Mo, you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, the movement was hard. You had this like up, down, left, right control for an isometric world, which isn't exactly up, down, left, right. It's like 45 degrees off from that. So I would get confused there. And then on top of that, there was a couple bugs in terms of the characters just taking off at times. But you could tap control, and I think she would stop moving. So there was a workaround around for that. And then it was a little bit annoying. It was kind of like the wrong kind of coordination where if we were heading in a direction that I'd have to proc it again, you should just be able to carry that variable to the next time Dave wants to move the boat.
It's because we're missing like animations for like half like for the character to turn in like two of the directions, like we don't have animations for that yet. So you turn, but the animation didn't update.
Yeah. My point is, it was just simply the wrong, whether it's because it's a work in progress. It's totally fine, of course. But I think you guys want to come up with mechanics that are conducive to us communicating, but that just felt labor intensive. Whereas my favorite part of the experience was I'd move into view of a sign and Christian would be like, wait, oh yeah, right there. And I'd be like, that worked beautifully. Like it felt like his verbal feedback to me was as good as a visual feedback to me. Like that worked really well. Overall, I like the concept quite a bit. I'll throw it to Christian, and if we're talking just about controls, I'm going to talk about more stuff later.
Well, you have this interesting idea of you have hands, feet, and head, right? And on my screen, eventually I noticed on the top left, it says head. And so when you think of head, you think eyes, ears, mouth, and memory. And so on one hand, we did get the sight, because when you approach a sign, you have a little eyeball there, and I can see what the sign is and tell everybody else what the sign is. But in terms of memory and spells, I don't know if this was intended or if it's a bug, I was actually unable to go through all of the spells. Because once the new spells populated my screen, I was unable to scroll through. And if Dave had not remembered what those spells were, we'd be in a little bit of trouble, because me as the head and the memory, I'd be unable to designate that. And then Mo was right. In terms of traversing the world, there was little that I was doing, despite being the head of the eyes and the ears and whatever. And so potentially a way to mitigate that would be to give the head a mini map or something along the lines to make it a little bit more involved and a little bit less passive, particularly if you're dealing with a world as large as this. And I don't know if you're going to add more or have that be that. But it really was, outside of those small moments of the initial spell of telling what it was to Dave and then reading the signs, there was not much else for me to give. So with the team that worked as well as this one, the head has not a lot to do, but perhaps for a team that is unable to work as well together, then perhaps that would be different. So figuring out what that means and if that's the correct intent of that or not for the head.
I also like that we broke it. We went for a little bit of a stroll. I mean, that was kind of a fun moment.
Well, and I think that's a question for you guys, teams. How do you want this to be presented at festival? Because you've got a nicely shareable screen, right? There's one screen that we all watch, which means that spectators can have exactly the same view that we have. But at the same time, there's hidden information. And so there's like the phones themselves introduce like nuance to the experience that the spectators might not have. And then I think the elephant in the room is this is a really long experience, and the interest might exist upon iteration for the guests playing it. But in terms of spectators, I'm skeptical that watching this whole thing is a compelling spectator experience. So when you think about festival, how do you think about this world being showcased? I guess do you guys have thoughts on that at the moment?
I guess our thoughts were like pretty straightforward. Like, you would like wait in line, and you can join a Zoom room like with people or with strangers. But yeah, like for spectating, it would just be like the shared screen. We were thinking of having like feedback from the controllers, like if you did a spell, like it would appear on the main screen, so like people who didn't see your controller could know more what's going on.
Well, and I think one perspective on this is this the spectator view, like what are the moments that are exciting for spectation? Because I think they're going to be exciting both for spectators and for the guests playing. And what I mean, Mo's comment about like the coordination of like lining up the signs, the best moments are probably miscommunication and a little bit of miscoordination. Like that's where like you get to watch three guests like kind of like know what they're trying to do, but like almost comically miss things and like have those misses is probably where it gets the most interesting. And I would use that as like, how do you design for those moments? Like, and like we spent a lot of time on that leaf, and there was no interesting choices. We like struggled because I think some of the controls were a little bit frustrating, but it was, once we were on that leaf, it was more of a like just going around the space, and there was a lot of burden just like casting the spell in movement, but no, it was just work. It was just like go through it and do it, and it was just waiting for it to be done, and that for me is like not the guest experience you want. You don't want spectators just like we know there's an end point. We're just waiting to get to the end. And so like looking for those moments of, okay, the team of three knows what they need to do. But there's a little bit of skill. There's a little bit of like, it's not so obvious on how you do it that it's just, boom, 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 you got it done. And so making those moments happen, I think is where you get that interest. And then I think the other one is just like tightening it down, like getting this to be sort of a sequence of interesting moments. And right now, the different spells, they're sort of like interesting to cast, but in some sense they're all the same. Like there is just, you have to communicate them, but it's like there's a situation where you use it and you use it. And I think that's one of the other things to watch out for your world is it's fairly repetitive. And what you've got moments of interaction, which are certainly like driven by the world. Like you need a spell to do this, you need this to do that, but you don't have many moments which are driven by like truly the coordination of three characters who are like one creature. And like going back to that comment of Mo's of like reading that sign, that is sort of almost like an organic moment of like coordinating the feet and the head together to be able to see something. And I would like as a team think about what are moments in context of three gnomes standing on top of each other that are, sort of express that reality. And like, what do those possibly feel like purely like unconstrained by reality? And then do some of them exist within your world that you can push the guests to? Like what, and the thought experiment is sort of like, okay, we're on a boat. Like what about that would be hard because we're three gnomes? And that question works well with the sign. Like what about reading a sign if you're three gnomes is hard? Well, the feet don't know where the head is. And it's like in some sense the graphics being a little ambiguous about where that sign really is work in your favor, because it means that the feedback you need only exists on the guest who's controlling the head. They're the ones who know when you're truly lined up, and the feet don't, which is a reflection of the reality for the feet, so to speak, right? Mo is controlling the feet. In theory, he's hidden inside a cloak, and he doesn't know where the head really is. He knows like roughly I can see a signpost, and like I think we're close, but and I think if you can talk through like sort of like that fantasy of like I am a character who's controlling the feet. What will that feel like? What are my limitations and what do I need? I am a character who's on the head. What are my limitations and things like that? Then you can possibly get to those moments that are interesting for the three guests, and they're interesting to watch because it's, what you kind of want is a natural dialogue of three characters who are saying things that those gnomes would actually say. And I think that's where your world would really come to life. And I think some other things on the design of the world, I think the art is lovely. It doesn't, the character does not really read three gnomes stacked on top of each other. You've got like that long cloak and those little windows but I think you might want to push a little bit on some more of that, like emphasizing that sort of comic nature of we are 3 characters stacked. And I would, Mo, go ahead.
That was totally lost on me, actually. I missed
We're
that.
working on that right now, actually. Like we came up with a new design last night, and yeah, we're trying to do that.
Yeah, so I think that I would like use, like, you got such a an evocative premise. I would think about how do you bring that to these moments and really reinforce it. I think the separation of controls is really strong. Like the idea of like that coordination, and a lot of that fantasy is like in place and is clicking. But I think the world needs to like emphasize the 3 gnome nature more than the spell and platform and obstacle nature of the world. Cool. But you mean,
Totally agree with that, Dave. Yes.
we got through it all too. I think it's another as a point in your guys' favor.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Would you recommend like that would be like designing like different interactions with the same game mechanics, or like changing the mechanics?
I mean, this is the art of like editing and scope and like having a week of iteration. You guys know what's potentially easy and what's hard on some level. It's not always the case that introducing new things is harder than working with what you have. But I would focus on 2 things. I would trim down the experience. I think walking around in exploration do not really, as verbs for this fantasy, like resonate with what is going on. I think it's a big part of like the time of this is you guys have a lot of just like navigation as part of this. And I think what you want is the moment of like reading a sign is a tight little moment, and you want tight little moments. I think casting spells is okay, but it's, like I said, it's repetitive, and it's not, that coordination isn't there past the first learning moment. And so what I would watch for in terms of like how to edit and aim is I would look at all the things you have you guys do, and everything where only one guess is really doing it is a candidate for being cut. Like you want your moments to be fundamentally at least 2 of the guests having to work together. And then I would ask yourselves, like, what is the quality of that interaction? And then the other piece that I would look at is your world is not just what happens in the space. The world is also what happens over Zoom and the dialogue. So the cheapest stuff you can add in are things where we have to talk and we have to coordinate. And I would think about how do you encourage discussion? And I think the critical thing here is that limited information that forces it. And I mean, I don't know how intentional it was, but it sounds like the interface for read the sign is actually very dynamic. Like it's when you're in range, it'll show up, and if you're not in range, it won't show up. And that dynamic nature meant that Mo and Christian could sort of like talk their way through, zeroing in on things. And I think dynamic like information and limited information, and sort of like that idea of like zeroing in and sort of like finding what you need and then doing it, that I would use that as your like guide, like those moments of like sort of continuous feedback, continuous discussion, to capture that idea of we are gnomes working together. And so continuous like interaction versus discrete turn-based interaction is going to be, I think, a more satisfying experience. And if you can get that through dialogue, I think that's where it'll click.
So, yeah, I totally agree. one thing you might use when deciding what to do next is this impact, confidence, ease. Dave kind of alluded to it, but you can measure if you know your ideas of where to go next on those three metrics. If it's highly impactful to the gameplay, you have a lot of confidence that it will be impactful, and it's easy to implement. Those are going to be the good bang for your buck, and where to spend the next week. That's a perfect world, right? So you have to think about those three things. You could imagine a scenario where a spell reveals a world that only Christian could see as the head. So he would have to guide me to a certain place verbally, and Dave would have to perform some sort of action in the right time so that the three of us are all active at once. It's not just pairs of us. And I think that's where I'd want to take it as well, is exactly what Dave was saying, but think of ways that the three of us need to coordinate, and that would feel really good.
And one last thing to think about is it was really unclear what our goal was, where we're going and why. You gave us portals to go through, which is, we know functionally they're a destination, but I think that's the other thing I'd really want to know is like what is success? Like what are we building to and what's the end? I think that's another thing to sort of like use to drive your scope is, can you define an endpoint that you can build to, and so you can capture a complete experience for the guests. And I think that's another thing that could help define, the interactions you go for, is like, how do we use these things together to achieve that goal? And so you could say, if our goal is to escape, our goal is to get this, whatever it is, then you can use that to reflect through what are we doing to get there. And if something is feels like it's not really on the direct path to that, that's another good tool possibly to edit yourselves. Cool. All right. Lots to talk about, but a lot of good stuff. So I think you guys know your world. I think there's choices to be made, and a week to iterate that through. But that's why we have interim. So good stuff.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So last team of our last interim, Team 45. The video's up.
Hello.
Hi.
All right. So what do you guys want? How do you want to run this?
So our world is a little bit unusual. So I will be sharing a screen. This is a hide and seek game, but I will be sharing a master view, which will see the hider and the seeker.
Okay.
And I'll also share a tutorial video first.
Mm-hmm. So the idea for this video is, I know that they said in the festival presentation that they could have a little spot that takes you to a link or whatever. So we would ask them to go there before they enter our Zoom room.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
did you share the audio?
Yeah, I don't think you're sharing sound, Minkan.
Oh, sorry.
You gotta hear our lovely voice acting.
The tallest talismans I placed around the living room form a barrier, which will prevent you from leaving the room. You have nowhere to flee now, ghost. Show yourself, and I will send you to reincarnation.
Come out to play, prized. I will hide and you will find me. We'll have more fun than I've had in years.
ghost is very cunning. Hide it in the furniture. I need to place a Taoist talisman on the right object in order to evict her. Since she can teleport from one furniture to another, I'll need help from the guardian spirits of this land. The guardian spirits of this land are willing to help me. I can communicate with them until the incense sticks burn out in 3 minutes. Guardian spirits, please help me find this ghost. If you know which furniture the ghost is possessed, give me a sign. And write a hint on this yellow paper.
You may have the guardian spirits, but only until the incense burns out. If you can't find me by then, it will be too late for you.
So this is the rule.
Right.
To control. They're actually very intuitive in the game.
So we would need one player to be the hider, one player to or hider aka priest, or hider aka ghost, and then one player to be the seeker aka the priest, and then some people to be the audience aka the guardian spirits.
All right, so the and it's you can use Zoom chat to communicate that stuff, right?
Yes.
I can hide.
Okay, I'll seek.
Okay.
And can we have some volunteers from the rest of the people?
The
Just type your name in the chat, like whoever, like the students or the TAs.
I think Christian, do you want to be the first one to give the hint to be the first guardian spirit?
Sure.
Okay, the second one can be Annie. The third one can be Karen. The fourth one. can be
Lewis
Mo.
volunteered.
Yes.
Lewis want to be the guardian spirit also.
I don't.
Lewis.
I don't think I can do this one right.
Oh.
You can, because you'll just be looking at the shared screen. Dave and I can't see the one on Zoom, and you'll be giving hints like letter by letter. Actually, is it still letter by letter?
It's not still letter by letter.
Oh, okay, never mind.
They'll host
Ignore me.
You're typing in Zoom chat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, you don't need to do anything except looking at Zoom and type something in the chat. That's all you need to do.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Also, Lewis would be the fifth one, I guess.
Lewis is the fifth one. All right.
All right.
Let's start.
All right, so hider and seeker, wait till we tell you guys to join.
Okay.
But yeah, from now, don't look at Zoom.
All right. I'm hiding Zoom to some degree.
I have hidden.
The hider can come in.
All right. I'm
Right,
the seeker.
Wait, you're the seeker, Dave.
Yeah. So let me know when to start.
I'm in.
Okay.
All right.
Hider's in. Hider can just play around in the world. And then
I think I'm
find
in.
an object to possess.
Oh, not yet.
Oh, no.
Not yet, Dave.
Oh, we kind of have to restart the game now.
Okay.
Not working?
Yeah, we need
have
to
to restart the game.
all of them.
All right. Should I restart? You guys restarting?
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
So don't open it yet.
Yes,
So
can you quit the
I'll
game
be-
that you're in now?
I quit it. I quit.
Okay, yeah.
So I will be hosting it first, and then the hider will come in and find an object to possess, and after that, the seeker can come in.
Yes. Yes, so don't open it until we tell you to do so. Yeah.
So hider can come in.
All right.
Then let's click on object.
Oh.
So you can possess on any those objects. And you can switch after you possess on it, but you only have 3 chances to do so.
Oh, okay.
And whenever you possess, you trigger that interaction. So Dave may know you.
Okay.
Okay, Seeker, Dave, you can come in now.
All right. Loading up. Here we go. We got a lot of
So
text?
the guardians,
okay?
so the guardian spirits can choose any of the words inside of this box to give hints. Christian, you're the first one.
Yes. So choose a word from this list,
Uh-huh.
and you see like the hider is inside that thing on the screen.
Yes, hider is inside.
Yeah. And hider, you can trigger something to scare Dave.
And I can only do one word of those at a time, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Ghostly goldfish. Ooh.
First hint.
Talking there and around. How do I guess? Do I use?
Just
you
click
can
left
click
click.
on object. You
Yes.
see
We only
it.
have 5 chances.
Yeah.
That does not look like.
Any? Do you want to give the second word?
But did I get a clue? Oh, his box. Like, it didn't work. I guess the freezer.
No, you got it
Yeah,
wrong.
you were wrong.
Second hint.
And Stephanie, you can switch if you feel like, yeah, you should switch. Yeah. Because
Yeah,
that hint is
I
too
didn't have
obvious.
enough time to see him.
Okay. Yeah, that's basically our game.
Yeah. And do you want to share the video of the other ending? I mean, the other ending is basically just like the ghost wins and they can't find a tenant for the apartment and it stays haunted.
Yes.
Ooh.
And hider and seeker, you guys can quit and come back to Zoom.
Do you think we can do another playthrough, like 2 minutes?
Sure.
Yeah.
Good try.
Cool. That would be perfect. Okay.
I feel like I'm just understanding it now, and
Do you guys want to switch the role?
I think we could have to. Yeah, let's just
we
do
should
it.
just keep it. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
The hider can come in.
Am I being the hider or the seeker this time, Dave?
I'm gonna hide.
Okay, I will seek.
So, am I picking something?
You can left click on interactables.
Yes, and you can still trigger also possess, but if you possess on a different object, you only have 3 chances to do so. Okay, yes.
I think the seeker can come in.
Alright, I'm opening it up.
And we can only say 1 word at a time, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
In festival, we would maybe do this with breakout rooms so that the audience can talk out loud. But for now,
Christian, you can give the first word.
Should we go? Because I already went. Should we start with Karen?
Okay, Karen. Okay. Mo, second word.
Okay.
And Dave, if you feel like he may get you, you can switch to a different object.
Okay. Christian, you can give the third word.
or Lewis actually.
Oh, sorry, Lewis. I'm sorry, Lewis. Christian?
Be sure you can give the next hint.
Can I use words that have already been used?
I think so. Yeah.
Box is doing that.
Any?
Why not? It's not. Oops, I was doing the same place.
Why does it little wrong? Oh, ghost twins now. I think.
So Dave won both times.
Yeah, Dave won.
Oh. That's just.
All right.
So, Stefan, how helpful were the clues?
So I figured out where he was the first time around, but I didn't want it to end yet, so I walked over there and didn't click anything and let him like move. But then the second time around, I wasn't really sure what move was attached to. And then box, I had already put tags on all of the things that had boxes, so I got a little confused.
It was a little confusing as the hinter to create a mapping in my head and then try to correlate that with how things were moving in the space and calibrate where the hider is and if they're going to move. And
Yeah, we came up with the idea of using words. Previously, it was like cluing one letter at a time. And the idea of using words came in like 2 days ago. So I think we're probably definitely going to change like the specific words that we have, at least a few of them.
Do you have any ideas on what word choices might be better?
Well, so my reaction is, I mean, so one, like there's a lot of like interesting things already happening. Like thinking about being the seeker and the hider, there's a lot of like, I'm trying to imagine what the other person is doing and thinking. There's a lot of theory of mind of like, what do they know? What do they see? And how do I anticipate that? And I think you've got that for the hider seeker. And I think you've got that for the audience as well. So like, that's a great place to be in. Now, the thing I definitely felt was I didn't know what the possibilities were. So it was really hard for me to feel like I had a handle on the information. And I mean, I sort of picked up through the discussion that there's a limited choice of words. Is that correct?
Yes.
And as the ghost, it was like, that would be like, as a ghost and as the hider and the seeker, that would be like, I really wanted to know that. I wanted to know like, what was that word list? Because like being the ghost, I'm guessing you felt this too, Steph, like what that word is means a lot. And anticipating the meaning of it and anticipating what to do with it is a big moment. And I think that's partially the word choice, like what words are available, but I think a lot of it is the anticipation. So one piece that was I really, really wanted to know was when did the word get chosen and when did the seeker know about that word? And little bits like that. And so I think some of this is like fine tuning the sequence of events and a lot of clarity of the word has been revealed to the seeker. The seeker now knows the word, and things like that. Like what if the ghost had a magical preview to the word? Like they would give them advantage, right? They could sort of decide to move or not move. And other things like the word will be revealed to the seeker in 3, 2, 1, reveal. And so I think this is like word choice is a thing. but there's a lot of theater here in about setting up all the roles so that they know how to anticipate and how to react, how to behave. And I would look to those pieces. And I think those will shape the experience a lot more. I think, like I said, word choice will be a thing as well. But I mean, just being the ghost of like, as the things I'm watching for is like, I can see where the seeker is, which is really great. I can see where they're looking and what they're thinking about. I can't see what they're highlighting. So I don't have any sense of like, are they looking at me or that? So there's like a piece of information that's a little bit ambiguous, which could work for you. But go ahead.
Can I add to that? Because then I have to run to class, but I want to speak to the point you were just talking about. I think you guys have to decide where the game is. Where do you want that interaction to be? Is it in deciphering what the words mean, or is it in trying to get there and guess where the ghost is and design to that more? And David's kind of giving you some good suggestions along those lines. Another one might be like, if it's about deciphering what the words mean, then you might want to lock the ghost in place for a second so that they have a split moment to make a decision like, what does box mean? Because I just felt like each phase of the gameplay felt very disconnected, and I was always kind of like one step or two steps behind tracking all of those moving parts. So building up to the theater, like Dave said, the moment is what you need to consider, and you have to decide what that moment is. If it's just about traversing space, then let us type anything, and maybe 100 people can say, okay, it turns into Price is Right thing, where everyone in the audience is yelling something, right? And you have to decipher which one it is, but maybe the space needs to be a lot bigger if that's the case, because then it's more obvious where the thing is, but you have to get there quicker or something, and that takes the game somewhere else in a different direction. So you have to decide where it is. If that makes sense. All right, I had a lot of fun. I have to run to class.
All right.
Thanks for having me, everybody.
Yeah, so I think getting to the point of like, what is this experience? I think you have more pieces than you're aware of. Like things in my head as a ghost. Like, does the seeker know the difference between me activating something and me moving? Like, does the seeker hear a different audio effect for movement of the ghost versus like activating stuff?
No, it's the same audio effect.
And I sort of guessed it was probably the same audio effect. So like, heads up, one of my strategies like was to just spam a single effect to like create a lot of ambiguity of did I go into that or not, and to almost like try to eliminate it as a signal. But that, like, you've got these like really nicely defined verbs. Like you've got effectively a lot of just like clear choices. And I think this world is going to be about really like clarifying to everyone who's in the space about what's going on. And the ambiguity comes from the nature of the limited information. Like, I know the ghost is in one of these things, and like I might have, a delay on like knowing that the ghost is moved. Like, do you want to let the seeker know that the ghost is out of moves? My guess is maybe not, but like enumerating all the things that you know, so the information, and then all the actions, and thinking about like where do you like make that clear and where do you sort of like keep that as hidden information, I think is part of your space to work with. And then sort of iterating the interface around that feedback to add that clarity. I think with the words, you want to think about the constraints, and there's some game design within that. I mean, you're very close to a lot of word games, that like party games. It's like Taboo and other things where it's like guess the word without using these constraints, and you sort of have a limited list of stuff. It might be, I think a limited list of words is a fair way to go because you can control that and you can iterate that. Like, I think the word, like, it came out like box transparent, like is aquarium. I think you want to think through some of the the design of this, and what would you like the pattern of the word reveal to be? Like, what do you want the audience to do, and the guests to do, in the sense of, do you want it to be, once you get 3 clues, then like you can pretty clearly identify the single thing it is? Do you want like the seeker to like get 1 clue and then like guess, like use 3 guesses immediately to like try to make things happen? I think there's a little bit of just like, to design the words, you kind of need to know the strategy you want them to be used for. And that piece of it is, I think, a little bit missing. And it feels like right now there's some objects that are harder to describe than other objects based on your word choice. And that, I think that feels like not necessarily where you want the final balance to be. Because that, if I'm the ghost and I know that, like, it turns out that the clock is really hard to describe with the word choices you have, but I didn't know that, then it feels like a strategy around information that's withheld from me that I don't actually get to engage in. And I can't tell that from the way the clues get revealed. And so knowing, if you come up with a way to like reveal those constraints to everyone, so they know how to work with that, I think that will make for the most satisfying shared experience, because this is then becomes a shared, like, is the audience picking that word well? Is the seeker interpreting it in a strong way? And is the ghost like pulling in the right stuff with that? And there might be, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of games that like play with this. I know there's a game called Mysterium, which is a board game where you play as a ghost communicating to people, trying to give them a hint about what the secret information is. And so looking at like those play patterns might be a thing you do sort of a quick like dive into of like that game design. And yeah, I'm just trying to think, like, are there constraints that you can sort of like get an audience through chat to embody, and people to understand? Sort of like Mo's idea of like the chat is sort of like the audience shouting, and there's one guest who is like spotlit, and their mic is unmuted, and they get to sort of say that one thing. And there might be like some interesting design to play with, of like really making that feel interactive and like a sort of an audience moment. But I would be honest, like thinking about that on the fly, like nothing immediately comes to mind. But you certainly, if you want that to happen, you need a set of constraints that people get and can use freely, and that there feels like there's choice and strategy, but there's also significant limitation. So
I was thinking this morning about if we were to change it from like each individual audience member has like 1 turn every like 10 seconds, or every like however many audience people there are times 10 seconds, to like voting. So like the whole audience has an impact on every hint. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's a technology question as well, of like the voting. I mean, you could leverage Zoom polls.
Is Zoom polls a thing? I was not aware.
Yep, you can set up polls and have all the audience members vote on stuff, and that might be a way to make this go. I'm trying to think. There's Lewis put in the chat like person do thing. There's a game, I can't remember right now, but there's a game which uses an entire board of like visual icons to, like, in theory, with the combinations of any of those, you can say almost anything, like creating languages. And is it Concept? I think that might be Concept. Sort of like, Yeah, you're right, Lewis. Thank you. Thank you for coming up with the name I've forgotten. But this space of like constrained communication, I would do like a quick dive into some of these game designs. I think Zoom polls is a strong possibility, and things you can do to really like emphasize that moment, like the audience as the guardians. I think it's a great justification for it, and that relationship between the hider and the seeker, like that is where this could really come to life. Like if you get an entire room of people basically playing this together, like that will make for an awesome festival experience. So I think it's worth playing with that, and sort of iterating. The nice thing is potentially the way you work with this is it's in a non-tech space. So if you play with Zoom polls or you play with Zoom chat, you can be iterating this and tweaking it without having to like strongly impact the world, and things like that. But like this is a great place to be playing. I think overall, like so much of stuff is working that you're now at a place where getting the audience pulled in a way that works really well is the right next step.
Dave and Annie, you play, or no? Who's playing?
Steph.
Playing. Was your screen a full screen? Like,
yes.
Because my question is, the big thing here that you mentioned, Dave, was your strategy was overloading with sound, essentially, because you kept clicking on the TV when you were hidden. And I'm wondering, with the background track that's going on throughout, how, to the seeker, how confusing do you want to make the world with a strategy that includes overloading and, interacting with everything that makes sound, versus having the seeker utilize those sound cues as kind of like an echolocation type deal? So the big question there is the role of that background track, and whether or not having it go throughout is potentially obscuring and making it more difficult for the seeker, and whether or not you could potentially utilize the soundtrack as a movement thing for the ghost, right? Because if anytime the ghost actually moves, you have like that little bit of the soundtrack comes in or whatnot. So that was my thought just in general. And Catherine, if you want to come to feedback tonight, we could discuss more about that. But just seeing as how that could potentially be a dominant strategy of just overloading the seeker with sound, and whether or not that is something you want to allow, and where the music could play potentially a greater role.
Yeah, I think this gets to like the signals that both the hider and seeker are working with, and it sort of pulls it all the way back to like what this world is. It's like a hider and seeker trying to like get into each other's heads, and everything. I mean, one of the nice things about the world is everything is sort of information, and I'm, as a hider or a seeker, I'm trying to absorb that information, and that audio track is like it's a piece of it. And I think my main thing on all that information is clarity of what is legitimately information, and what isn't, to the point of like I don't know I didn't know actually as the hider what the audioscape that Steph was necessarily hearing based on what I was doing. And I think there's a piece of this which is just eliminating some of the ambiguity, and then there's a piece of it which is like now using those pieces more intentionally to sort of like reinforce the things you want. Like you want the seeker to have less information or more information. But a lot of good stuff here, and I think you guys are going in an exciting direction. You've got some game design things to sort of like figure out, and some feedback things, and some other things. But overall, the piece feels really strong. So.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So as the seeker, do you at any moment feel boring, or you feel you're like busy enough digesting the information from the audiences?
Well, Steph, you were the seeker last.
I would say that like at the start of it, I wasn't, but like after a while, it took a little bit longer for responses to come in or like hints to come in. So I was just kind of like sitting there, like spinning around, looking at the room. But because you can interact with basically like all of them as the ghost, I didn't like. I kind of started ignoring the interactions happening in the room.
But just waiting for the messages, right?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, I think that gets to the you guys taking more control of the information. And like you have, right now you have things the ghost can do and the seer can do, but it's not clear what triggering like a distraction in the room really means. And right now it feels like from a level of implementation, it's like you can do it, but it doesn't have real meaning yet. And I think that's a little bit of a thing to map into this.
Yeah, we were thinking like reinforcing the interaction, and also maybe let the priest to have something else to do, is that instead of just waiting for the information. Is that like, do you have any advice on that?
Well, I mean, you have a story and you have these constraints, which is the ghost can only move 3 times, and the seeker can only guess 5 times, but the ghost can unlimited like activate things. And like I said, you guys are very much in a game design information space. Like, I really want to know as the ghost, like how many times has the seeker actually guessed? Like, are they on their last one? I would like to know that. Like if I'm like looking at if I were the seeker, I want to know how many times has the ghost moved? Like how close am I? Now you may not reveal that information, but those are pieces that are in play. But there's subtle things that I don't know. Like I don't know if you've intended, but as the ghost, I'm aware of like I'm at a fixed point, so I can only activate things that I can see. And so in theory, the seeker could build up an idea of where the ghost is based on what they're activating. Now you probably need to like redesign the level to have a lot more blind spots and a lot more like limitations. But that gets into the idea of what the seeker's doing, right? The seeker's sort of playing a logic game of eliminating the possibilities of where the ghost is to narrow it down to where the ghost really is. And you've got those pieces coming into play. I think the reality is the only valuable piece of data that the seeker really gets is the hint from the audience, which means that the time in between hints isn't really useful to solving that problem. And I think if you want to like iterate that, I would do stuff where, you know, the ghost has possibly different constraints where they can move more often, but they're limited how far they can move. And so as a seeker, one of my tool will be eliminating options in the space and narrowing it down. And I think to really make this world feel like a strategy for the seeker, I need a way to make progress on narrowing it down. And right now, I don't think your world has a good sense of what it means to narrow it down. And so I would use that as a thought process for like iterating the seeker role, especially. Have you guys looked at the game Spy Party? So there's a 2-player game, spy versus spy. Well, sniper versus spy, and there is a party that the spy is at, and there's like basically a dozen NPCs, and the spy is one of the NPCs. There's actually a human, and the sniper has an external view, and their job is to figure out which of the characters is the spy and snipe them. And the game is all about eliminating people. So there's actually a mechanic for the sniper, which is click on people and say, they're not the spy. So you get narrowed down to like 3 people left. So you actually have a tool which lets you narrow down. And that might be a thing to consider is, you know, like I said, the embodying the idea of like narrowing down. Is there a way to give the seeker a tool to narrow down? And like you have some obvious pushback against that. The ghost can go anywhere else. So the seeker could eliminate the aquarium from the list. Actually, if they put a guardian, if they put a talisman there, can the ghost go to the aquarium later?
Right now they still can. You're planning to not make them
So I think
possessive.
that's what I would then focus on, is like that idea of making progress in narrowing down where the ghost is. And if you can make that strategy clear to the seeker and the ghost, then that's sort of like how they will play off each other. And then fitting in, like, and then incorporating the audience strategy, like that's where the magic design will all like make it work. But I think those are the two things to watch for: is the audience, like what does it mean to give a constrained hint? And then what does it mean for those hints to play into the seeker narrowing down where the ghost is? And then the ghost can kind of be reactive and design in response to those strategies. Cool. All right. A lot of stuff, but a lot of good stuff. I mean, congratulations, everyone. Round 5 interim. That's it. We've got one more week of world work. So it's gonna be a big week. Like I said before, a lot of exciting stuff. Like the round 5 stuff is shaping up in really interesting ways. So for next week, think about audience, think about festival, think about how do you want this shown and presented, and like how do you want guests to get into it? How do you want to share over Zoom? Be thinking a little bit about how will you get people to know what their role is and how they share their screen, which screens are being shared. Do you want to do stuff where you share multiple screens and you you cycle between them somehow? Do you do, do you have a single view? Some of the stuff can be, presented and shared through your experience flow. But that's a big part of that part of the assignment, is just like knowing how your audiences get into the world, how your spectators get in, how will the reality of running this through Zoom in this real-time space actually happen. So the question about what to submit for the experience flow, it is up to you guys. I would recommend, like, when the question of like what design document should you make for something, my general answer is make a Google presentation, and be able in like say 2 or 3 slides show like the sequence of like the guests who are playing and the guests who are spectating. And the nice thing about like a Google presentation is you can use visuals, like say, hey, this is in the room. We're going to like ask people to be here. We're going to do this. You can also use text. They're just like a handy way to like create documents. And then there are presentation, which implies a sequence and sort of a talking through of ideas. So presentations are one of the better ways to sort of do a design document. You could also make a flowchart. You could make a storyboard. You could have like different ways to express it, but fundamentally you want to cover the pieces of the guest experience that are, the players and the spectators, and how you're going to like get them through the experience, get them into it, to understand it, and get them out. And you want to reflect that through the reality. And the reality for you guys is going to be a virtual room in the remote festival system. And I think for everyone, Zoom. But there's also like some small pieces of this, which is who's running the world. Like, it doesn't matter who runs it first and second. We've had some worlds where it changes, like what role you take on. Is there a shared, a single server that gets run and people join to? Are rooms created? Do people enter their names? So there's a lot of little steps. And in some sense, the experience flow is everything that happens before the experience starts and everything happens after. And that's why we're asking for a document that captures that. But if when in doubt for a document, I like Google presentations, but it's on you guys to convey that information so that we understand how the guests go through your world. Cool. All right. With that, Thursday is going to be some discussion about jury and festival and some details. I'm going to be setting up some office hours for Thursday morning as well. I'm going to basically put in more office hours this week, so we get more chances to chat and reflect on stuff. This is a great week to ask questions, to talk to the CloudWorks team, to reach out for office hours and those things. It's potentially a good week to playtest. So use Slack I've seen you guys already like reaching out and like finding each other to play test with. I believe there is a play test this coming Sunday. Is that correct? So there's also going to be some stuff about play testing the festival framework as well.
Yep.
So be thinking iteration, be thinking play testing. Think about, like I said, using office hours. Think about, all the things we've pulled from the semester. So think about indirect control. Think about, knowing your world and how to express that. You're going to have some iteration on feedback and on interface and all those little pieces. And then the other part of the assignment is the concept art for your room. So have a little bit of a sense of like how that all comes together. So it's a lot of stuff, but the worlds are in really great shape. There's definitely things to be iterated, but where we stand now, I think we're lining up for a pretty exciting festival. And so from here on out, that's where we're going. All right. With that, I'll see you guys on Thursday. There's some links going out in terms of like office hours and signups. So keep an eye on that. And with that, I think, unless TAs, do we have any other announcements and business to cover?
I think we'll cover a little bit more on Thursday's session that CloudWorks will be opening up if you have your world ready that you want to test it on our Sunday play testing, but you will have to have a build for us by Friday.
Okay.
So that we can put it into our world so that you can have lots of guests to come play test your world in our world on Sunday.
Would an interim build be okay for that?
If that's what you want to test on, you do have to give us like what other interactive objects you want. How do you want the guests to download? Like the whole experience flow. We will need that to put it in.
Okay.
So if you want something like that, sign up for an office hour and we can discuss over what else you might be missing and then send over the things. We'll put it in our virtual build.
All right. With that, good work, and I'll see everyone on Thursday with some last festival details. All right.